What is mind? How does the mind work? And how to control the mind? Everyone wants to know the answer, but the mind isn't something that we think about it. The mind is like a river, always moving, never silent. It flows with memories of the past, fears of the future, desires that stretch endlessly, and thoughts that rise and fall like waves. Most people try to control this river by force, by suppressing, resisting, or distracting themselves. But control never comes through struggle. The more one tries to push a thought away, the stronger it returns. The secret is not in fighting the river, but in sitting silently beside it, observing it, learning its language, and slowly understanding its movement. Just as a child calms down when someone listens with love and without judgment, the mind too becomes quiet when it is observed with deep interest and care. We often believe that we are the ones who think, but if we watch carefully, we will notice that thoughts come and go on their own. A thought arises about something we forgot to do yesterday, then another thought links itself to it, reminding us of someone we dislike, and soon we are lost in an emotional storm without even knowing how it began. The key is to become aware of the beginning. The moment a thought arises, look at it without trying to change it. Just as a mirror reflects whatever stands before it without judgment, the mind becomes clear when it simply watches without interference. This silent watching is not passive. It is alive, intelligent, and full of energy. It is not about controlling the mind like a dictator, but understanding it like a compassionate friend. For example, if you are walking to your office and suddenly a thought arises, what if I fail in my job? Normally you might react with fear or anxiety, but instead of reacting, what if you pause for a moment and just observe the thought? Don't label it as good or bad. Don't try to run away from it or chase another thought to distract yourself. Just let it be. Watch it like you would watch a cloud in the sky. It came from nowhere and it will go to nowhere. This simple act of watching changes everything. The thought loses its power over you. The emotion begins to dissolve, and a space opens inside you. In that space there is clarity, not confusion. That space is not created by force, but by understanding. Understanding means seeing things as they are. If anger comes, don't call it evil. Don't say, "I should not be angry." That judgment is another layer of thought that creates conflict. Instead, feel the anger fully. Observe how it rises in the body, how the breathing changes, how the hands clench, how the voice wants to shout. Just observe. When you become the observer, you are no longer the prisoner of that emotion. You are not anger anymore. You are awareness. And that awareness transforms everything. Anger begins to fade, not because you tried to remove it, but because it was seen completely without resistance. In real life, imagine you are in a heated conversation with someone. They say something that triggers you, and your mind wants to lash out. At that moment, take a breath and turn inward. Feel what is happening in the body. Recognize the flood of thoughts and emotions, then silently observe them without reacting. Just this gap, this space of awareness, gives you freedom. Instead of becoming a slave to the situation, you are now the master of your response. This is not suppression, it is intelligence in action. And this intelligence grows each time you watch without judgment. Many people suffer from restlessness. They cannot sit quietly even for a few minutes. The moment there is silence, the mind fills it with noise. It talks about the past, worries about the future, fantasizes about pleasures, and complains about life. This restlessness is not the enemy. It is simply the result of years of unconscious living. We have fed the mind with endless stimulation: phones, television, gossip, social media, ambitions. Now the mind has become addicted to movement. But if we understand this, we can begin to slow down. Not by force, but by attention. If you sit quietly and listen to the chatter of the mind without trying to silence it, something amazing happens. The chatter begins to slow down on its own. Like a spinning fan that slows after the switch is turned off, The mind slows when you stop feeding it energy through identification and reaction. Even disturbing thoughts, like jealousy, lust, hatred, guilt, are not enemies. They are messengers. They reveal the structure of our inner world. If we reject them, we remain ignorant of what lies within. But if we welcome them with openness, if we look at them directly and feel them without acting on them, they begin to reveal their roots. Jealousy may show us our deep fear of not being loved. Guilt may show us our desire for perfection. Hatred may point to wounds we have not healed. Every thought and emotion, no matter how unpleasant, has something to teach if we are willing to listen. It is like cleaning a room. If you just keep the door shut because the room is dirty, the mess will only grow. But if you open the door, bring light in, and look clearly at the mess, then slowly, with patience, you can clean it. The light of observation is the greatest cleanser. And observation does not mean thinking about the thought. It means simply watching it without becoming it. You are not the thought. You are the awareness in which the thought appears and disappears. This is not a belief. It is something you can see for yourself every moment. To live this way is to be deeply free. Not free from thoughts, but free in the presence of thoughts. Not free from emotions, but free in the presence of emotions. Imagine someone insults you. Normally, the mind reacts immediately, either with anger, shame, or hurt. But now, if you simply observe the reaction, you will see how fast it moves. First, there is a sensation in the chest. Then a thought, how dare they speak to me like this? Then an urge to respond. But if you stay as the watcher, you will realize that none of this is you. It is just a program running in the system. You are the space in which it is happening. And in that realization, a gap opens. You can choose to respond with wisdom, or you may not respond at all. Either way, you are not a victim anymore. This awareness grows only when it is practiced patiently. No need for techniques, mantras, or systems. Just simple watching. Whether you are eating, walking, driving, talking, keep a part of your attention inward. Notice the thoughts. Notice the emotions. Don't try to stop them. Just watch them like you would watch birds flying in the sky. They come, they go. Sometimes one bird leads to a whole flock. One thought leads to many. But keep watching. Slowly, a distance forms. That distance is not disconnection. It is clarity. You are no longer drowning in the mind. You are floating above it. And this is the beginning of true freedom. People often believe they are in control of their minds, but when observed honestly, most actions, decisions, and emotions are just mechanical reactions. Someone praises you, you feel good. Someone criticizes, you feel hurt. These reactions are not chosen, they happen automatically. But the moment you begin to observe them in real time, something shifts. You become less reactive and more reflective. For instance, while waiting in a long line, the mind may start complaining, "This is a waste of time," or "Why are these people so slow?" Normally, you would get irritated and restless. But now, as an observer, you simply watch these complaints rise and fall inside the mind. You don't give them energy. You don't suppress them either. You just stay aware. And you realize that the irritation was not caused by the line. It was already inside, triggered by the situation. This insight helps you take responsibility and brings calm where there used to be frustration. Children often live in a state of wonder and presence. They look at a butterfly, a leaf, or a puddle with total attention. But as adults, we lose this ability. Our minds are always occupied, planning, judging, regretting, comparing. To reclaim that innocence, we must return to awareness. While eating, instead of scrolling through a phone or talking mindlessly, what if you tasted each bite with full attention? Notice the texture, the flavor, the sensation of chewing. This simple act of eating becomes a meditation. The mind wants to wander, but you gently bring it back to the moment, not by force, but by interest. The more you watch the present moment, the less power thoughts have over you. Restlessness often comes because we are always chasing something: goals, desires, pleasures, status. The mind thinks, once I get that job, that relationship, that success, then I'll be at peace. But peace never comes through chasing. Even after achieving one goal, the mind sets another. And this endless chase creates a restless mind that never finds rest. Understanding this pattern is freedom. You start to see that nothing outside can bring lasting peace. So you stop running and begin watching. You return to the present and see that peace is already here, underneath the noise. But to experience it, you must stop escaping and start observing. Thoughts are like echoes of the past and whispers of the future. They are rarely about the now, and that's why they feel disconnected from life. If you're drinking tea but your mind is replaying an old argument or imagining a future failure, you are not truly living that moment. But the moment you become aware, I am thinking again, you come back to the present. That awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you see clearly, and the more you see, the less the mind can deceive you. One common misconception is that a quiet mind means having no thoughts, but that is not true. A quiet mind is one that is not pulled around by thoughts. Thoughts may come, but they are like birds flying through the sky. They don't leave a trace. You see them, you let them pass. Silence grows not by removing thoughts, but by being untouched by them. Imagine sitting on a hill watching cars drive by. You don't try to stop the cars. You just watch them. Slowly your mind takes the shape of that hill, stable, unmoved, and clear. This is the silence that arises from understanding. Many people feel guilt or shame for having negative thoughts. But thoughts are not personal. You don't choose them. They arise from your conditioning, your past, your fears, your environment. If you were raised differently, your thoughts would be different. So don't judge your thoughts. Don't hate yourself for them. Just observe them like you would observe clouds passing through the sky. No cloud stays forever, and no thought defines who you are. You are the sky, vast, open, untouched. Thoughts come and go, but you remain. In relationships, this awareness becomes especially powerful. Imagine someone close to you does something that triggers an old wound. Your mind instantly starts judging, blaming, or feeling hurt. Instead of reacting, what if you watched your inner response silently? You would see how your reaction is not just about this moment, but about past pain. You might realize that your anger is really a mask for fear. And in seeing this, something softens inside. You respond from clarity, not conditioning. You break the cycle of pain. This is how awareness heals relationships, not by changing others, but by seeing yourself clearly. Sometimes, emotions feel overwhelming. Sadness, anxiety, loneliness, they seem too big to face. But even the strongest emotion is just energy and movement. If you sit quietly and feel it fully, without naming it or running from it, it changes. Sadness may turn into peace. Anxiety may dissolve into stillness. Emotions are like waves. They rise, peak, and fall. But they fall only if you don't interfere. If you fight them or feed them with more thoughts, they grow. But if you simply watch, they pass. And with each wave that passes, your inner space grows deeper. This space of watching is not dull or lifeless. It is vibrant. It is alive. In fact, the more you observe, the more sensitive you become. You start noticing the subtle movements of the mind, the way a thought begins, the way it links to a memory, the way it tries to seduce you into believing it. And you begin to laugh at the tricks of the mind, not with bitterness, but with understanding. This laughter is the beginning of wisdom. You no longer take your thoughts so seriously. You no longer get trapped in their stories. And so, you are free. Freedom is not about escaping the mind, but living with it wisely. The mind is a tool, a servant, not the master. Use it when needed, but don't be used by it. Just as you use your hands to work, but don't let them control your life, use your mind to plan, to create, to solve problems. But don't let it dominate your peace. The moment the work is done, put the mind down. Return to silence. Return to presence. Return to yourself. Even in times of pain, awareness brings strength. If you are grieving, allow the tears. Let the heart break open, but stay aware. Feel every sensation. Don't numb it. Don't escape it. Just be with it. And you'll see, even pain has beauty when observed deeply. It opens the heart. It makes you tender. It connects you to life in a raw, real way. But only if you don't resist. Resistance creates suffering. Acceptance brings healing. To live this way is to live consciously. And consciousness is like light. The more light you bring into the inner world, the less darkness there is. But the light is not something you bring from outside. It is already within. All you need to do is stop running and turn inward. Observe, watch, understand. And then the rest happens on its own. The mind begins to settle. The emotions begin to calm. Not because you forced them, but because you listen to them with care. People often ask, how long will it take for the mind to become still? But this question arises from the same restless mind that wants quick results, that seeks control and achievement. The truth is, there is no destination. There is only the present. The more you live in the present, the more stillness becomes your natural state. It's not something you get in the future. It is something you return to now by dropping the chase. Imagine sitting beside a calm lake. If you throw a stone, ripples will form. But if you don't touch it, the water remains still. The mind is the same. Each desire, each fear, each judgment is like a stone. When you observe without throwing more stones, the ripples settle on their own. This is not passivity. It is a deep, alert presence. In everyday life, there are countless moments to practice this. When you are in traffic and impatience arises, observe the impatience. When someone interrupts you and irritation appears, observe the irritation. When you feel bored, observe the boredom. Don't label it as wrong. Don't escape it by reaching for the phone or turning on the TV. Stay with it. Go into it. Look at it like a scientist watching a new discovery. And slowly you will see. These emotions are not enemies. They are energies asking to be understood. Once understood, they dissolve, leaving behind peace, clarity, and intelligence. The beauty of watching is that it does not divide. It does not say, this thought is holy and that one is dirty. It embraces everything. It welcomes every movement of the mind with the same openness. Whether it is a loving thought or a hateful one, an ambitious desire or a painful memory, watch it with equal attention. This total acceptance is not weakness. It is the highest strength. It means you are not afraid of your own mind. You are ready to face yourself completely. And in that fearlessness, a new intelligence is born, not borrowed knowledge, but a living intelligence that responds to life freshly and freely. Let's take a simple example. You are walking in a park and suddenly a thought arises. I wish I had a better life. Normally, you would follow that thought and begin comparing yourself with others, creating sadness or frustration. But now, as an observer, you catch it in the beginning. You see the thought, you feel its pull. But instead of following it, you pause, you observe, and in that observation you see the root. Maybe it's insecurity, maybe it's social pressure. Whatever it is, you see it clearly. And the moment you see the root, the thought loses its grip. You are free. This freedom is not imaginary. It is real. It can be experienced every day in small things. When you are about to react harshly to someone, but you stop and watch your reaction. Freedom. When you are tempted to escape boredom with distraction, but instead sit with the boredom. Freedom. When you are caught in fear about the future, but become aware of that fear without running. Freedom. These small acts of watching, repeated daily, build an unshakable inner strength. You are no longer a puppet of your mind. You are its witness. Some people ask, but what if I can't stop the thoughts? What if they never go away? That's okay. The goal is not to stop thoughts. The goal is to stop being caught in them. Let the thoughts come and go. Don't interfere, don't resist, just watch. The more you watch, the less they bother you. It's like sitting in a train station. Trains keep coming and going, but you are not on any train. You are sitting on the bench, relaxed. The trains are not a problem unless you climb aboard. In the same way, thoughts are not a problem unless you believe them, follow them, and get lost in them. Some thoughts are seductive. They promise pleasure, power, success. Others are terrifying, reminding you of failures, losses, fears. But remember, a thought is just a thought. No matter how attractive or scary, it is not reality. Reality is always now. This moment. The breath you are taking, the ground under your feet, the sound around you. This is where life is. Thoughts are shadows. They may have emotional weight, but they are not solid. If you treat them like passing clouds, they will behave like clouds, coming, drifting, and disappearing. But if you fight them or worship them, you give them power. That's why many people feel overwhelmed. Not because of the thoughts themselves, but because of their attachment to them. Detachment does not mean suppression. It means seeing clearly. If a thought says, "You are not good enough," you don't have to argue with it or accept it. Just watch it. Where did it come from? Is it true? Or is it a voice from the past, maybe a parent, a teacher, society? As you observe, you begin to see how much of the mind is borrowed, second-hand. And as this realization deepens, you start dropping the unnecessary weight. This dropping is effortless. It is like waking up from a dream. You don't have to fight the dream. You simply open your eyes. Awareness is that opening. And once your eyes are open, the dream of the mind loses its power. You start living with clarity, moving through life with a light heart and a sharp mind. Not hard and rigid, but soft and flexible. You become like water, able to flow, to adapt, to embrace. And when suffering comes, as it does for everyone, you don't collapse. You face it. You stay present with it. You learn from it. You let it transform you. Because you know that suffering is not the enemy. It is a part of life, a part of growth. And your awareness turns even suffering into wisdom. A broken heart, when observed, reveals the depth of love. A failure, when faced fully, opens the door to humility. A loss, when accepted, teaches impermanence. These lessons cannot be found in books. They arise from watching life with open eyes and a quiet mind. So walk through life like a traveler, awake, curious, open. Don't carry too much. Drop what is not needed. Watch what arises inside. Don't cling. Don't condemn. Just be aware. And in this awareness, you will find a silence that is not empty. It is full of life. It is full of understanding. It is full of love. Love that arises from awareness is not possessive. It is not a demand. It does not say, "You must make me happy." It simply flows like a spring from within, without expectations, without fear. Such love can only blossom when the mind is quiet, when thoughts do not interfere with judgment or attachment. In the silence of observation, you begin to see others clearly, not as ideas, not as projections, but as they are. A friend is no longer a label. A partner is no longer a role. You see their pain, their beauty, their confusion, and you respond with compassion, not control. This is true relationship, where each sees the other freshly, without the burden of the past. Now imagine how this awareness could change the way you work. Usually, people work with pressure, competition, and stress. The mind is always racing. Am I doing enough? What will others think? Will I succeed? But if you bring awareness to your work, something magical happens. Each action becomes total. Each task becomes a meditation. Whether you are typing, cleaning, designing, or leading, you are fully present. There is no division between you and what you are doing. The result is not only better performance, but also deep fulfillment. You enjoy the work, not for reward or recognition, but for the joy of doing. And this joy is born only in stillness, not in restlessness. Restlessness comes from comparison. The mind constantly measures, I should be richer. They are more successful. I am falling behind. These thoughts drain your energy and joy. But when you observe them, you realize they are meaningless. Every human being has a unique path. The flower does not compare itself to another flower, it simply blooms. When you stop comparing and begin watching, you also bloom, in your own way, in your own time. The need to compete vanishes. You no longer want to defeat others. You want to understand yourself. That is the real revolution. And this inner revolution does not require a special place. You don't have to go to the mountains or a monastery. It can happen right where you are in the middle of daily life. While washing dishes, walking to work, listening to someone talk, each moment is an opportunity. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when seen with full attention. A simple breeze on the skin, a bird singing, the rhythm of your breath. These become gateways into presence. The mind wants drama, stimulation, excitement. But truth is found in silence, in simplicity, in the spaces between. One of the biggest traps is trying to become something. The mind says, I must become spiritual. I must be more peaceful. I must achieve enlightenment. But this only strengthens the self, the ego. You are again caught in becoming instead of being. The truth is, there is nothing to become. You already are what you seek. You only need to see what is blocking it. And that block is thought, identity, past conditioning. When you drop the idea of becoming and start observing what you are, transformation happens naturally. Not as a goal, but as a side effect of awareness. This awareness also changes how you see time. Most people live either in memory or imagination. They are haunted by the past or anxious about the future. Very few live now, but the present is the only place where life exists. The past is gone. The future is not here. Only this moment is real. And when you fully enter the now, time disappears. You are not thinking of what happened yesterday or what may happen tomorrow. You are just here. And in this, just here, peace blooms. Time does not end, but your obsession with it does. You are not racing anymore. You are living. Some people fear this silence, thinking it is boring or empty. But true silence is alive. It is not the absence of sound, but the absence of mental noise. It is the background in which all life dances. And when you live from this silence, you move differently. You speak with clarity. You listen deeply. You act with purpose. You are no longer a bundle of reactions. You are a conscious being. And consciousness is the greatest power. It can face anything. It can transform any situation. It can love without attachment and act without fear. Even physical pain changes when observed with awareness. Suppose you have a headache. The usual reaction is resistance. I don't want this. Why is this happening? But if you just sit with the sensation, watching it without naming, without fighting, you notice something strange. The pain is there, but the suffering around it begins to dissolve. You are no longer the victim of pain. You are the observer of it. And this shift in perspective reduces the weight of pain. It does not mean you enjoy it, but you are not crushed by it. You are bigger than the pain. You are the space in which it appears and disappears. Life throws many challenges: loss, betrayal, failure, illness. The mind wants to avoid them, but awareness embraces them. Not as punishment, but as part of life's mystery. When you stop asking, why me, and start watching, what is this teaching me? A new strength grows. You learn patience. You learn resilience. You learn surrender. And surrender is not giving up. It is giving in to what is, without resistance. It is flowing with life instead of fighting it. And only those who flow can reach the ocean. You may wonder, but how can I practice this in the middle of chaos, in a noisy world, with a busy mind? The answer is simple. Start small. Take one moment today, just one, and watch it completely. Maybe it's your breath. Maybe it's your heartbeat. Maybe it's a sound outside. Stay with it. Don't analyze. Don't judge. Just observe. That one moment of observation is enough. It plants a seed. And if you water it daily with attention, it will grow into a vast tree of inner silence. You don't have to change your whole life. Just begin here. Now, where you are. Awareness is not something you add. It is what you uncover. It is like cleaning a mirror. The dust is not part of the mirror. Once wiped, the mirror reflects clearly. In the same way, once thoughts, fears, and distractions are seen for what they are, your true self shines, clear, silent, free. And this freedom is not an escape from the world. It is a deeper engagement with it, without confusion. You walk through the same world, but with new eyes. You listen to the same sounds, but with new ears. You live, not as a prisoner of thought, but as a master of presence. This presence becomes your anchor in every situation. Whether you are at a celebration or in crisis, surrounded by noise or sitting alone, presence remains your center. It is not affected by outside events. When someone praises you, you hear the words but do not become inflated. When someone insults you, you hear that too without feeling small. You remain untouched because you have seen something deeper within yourself, something no opinion can shake. This is real confidence, not the loud, forced kind, but the quiet knowing that nothing in the world can truly add or take away from who you are. This also transforms your relationships. When you are aware, you no longer look at others as tools for your happiness. You do not expect them to fill your emptiness or fix your wounds. Instead, you relate from wholeness. You see others as fellow travelers, each carrying their own burdens, each seeking peace in their own way. You stop blaming, stop demanding, and begin listening. Truly listening, not just to their words, but to the space between the words, the silence in which connection happens. You realize that most arguments, most conflicts, are not about the situation, but about unobserved pain, fear, or need. And the moment you observe, understanding replaces judgment. Suppose your partner is angry. In the usual way, you would react, defend yourself, attack back, or feel guilty. But now, with awareness, you pause. You watch their anger without absorbing it. You see it for what it is. Pain in disguise, a wound speaking out. And instead of reacting, you hold space. This does not mean you tolerate abuse, but you see more deeply. And your calmness often diffuses the tension. Even if it doesn't, you remain steady. This steadiness is not cold or distant. It is warm, compassionate, deeply human. It comes from not being lost in your own mind. In the same way, awareness changes how you speak. Before speaking, you pause and feel. Are these words coming from ego or love? From reaction or understanding? You notice how often people speak just to fill silence or prove something. But now, silence is not uncomfortable. It is welcome. You realize that silence can communicate more than words. A quiet presence can heal more than advice. And when you do speak, your words carry weight because they come from stillness. You are not trying to impress, dominate, or manipulate. You are simply expressing the truth of the moment. This changes your connection with nature too. When the mind is still, the world comes alive. You begin to see things you never noticed before. The intricate patterns of a leaf, the movement of ants, the way sunlight touches water. These small details become sacred. They remind you that life is not in your head. It is everywhere, in every moment, waiting to be seen. You may find yourself stopping in the middle of a walk just to feel the breeze, or sitting quietly in a park watching birds. Not for a reason, not for a reward, just because you are present. And that presence itself is fulfillment. You also become more aware of your body, not as an object to control or criticize, but as a living, breathing part of now. You begin to feel when it is tired, when it is tense, when it is relaxed. You notice how certain thoughts tighten your chest or clench your jaw. You learn to move, sit, Walk with awareness. Eating becomes a meditation. You taste your food fully. You chew slowly, grateful for each bite. You are not eating and scrolling your phone or thinking of problems. You are simply eating. And this simple act, done with full awareness, brings joy and gratitude. Even your habits begin to change, not by force, but by understanding. Suppose you smoke or overeat or scroll endlessly on your phone. Instead of fighting the habit or judging yourself, you start watching it. When does the urge come? What are you feeling before and after? What are you trying to escape? As you observe without judgment, a space opens. And in that space, the compulsion loses power. You may still fall into the habit sometimes, but each time you are more aware. And slowly the habit falls away, not because you suppressed it, but because you understood it. This understanding is the key to all change. Most people try to change by force. They make resolutions, set goals, punish themselves. But real change comes from seeing. When you see something clearly, it changes on its own. If you put your hand in fire and get burned, you don't need to be told not to do it again, you simply know. The same is true for psychological fire, jealousy, greed, pride. Once you observe their root and consequence, you don't need to force them away. They dissolve because you see they bring suffering, and no one wants to suffer knowingly. This path of awareness is not about becoming special. It is not about gaining power, fame, or enlightenment. It is about being real, dropping illusions, masks, and roles. Being real means you no longer pretend to be perfect. You are honest about your fears, your faults, your humanness, and in that honesty, there is great beauty. You become more relatable, more humble, more alive. You stop trying to be someone, and you simply be. This being is not passive. It is full of energy, creativity, and love. It is the flowering of intelligence, not the intelligence of books, but of life itself. You may still face difficulties. You may still feel pain, but now you walk through them with eyes open. You are no longer overwhelmed by the mind. You are the space in which the mind moves. And because you are not identified with the movement, you remain peaceful even when the waves rise. This peace is not the opposite of noise. It is the background of all noise. It is the sky in which all clouds appear. And once you know this sky, you are never truly lost again. Even when you forget and get caught in the mind again, you remember more quickly. You return to watching. You return to breath. You return to now. This coming back becomes easier and more natural over time. It is like building a muscle. Each time you observe, you grow stronger. And one day the observer is no longer a practice. It becomes your way of being. You are awareness itself. You are no longer seeking peace. You are peace. This peace is not static. It is alive, vibrant, and flexible. It does not make you dull or indifferent. Instead, it sharpens your senses and deepens your capacity to feel. You laugh more freely, cry more deeply, and care more authentically. Because you are not protecting an image, you become real. When you are sad, you allow the sadness. When you are joyful, you do not hold back the joy. Nothing is repressed. Nothing is exaggerated. Everything flows in its natural rhythm, and you, as the observer, remain rooted in stillness, allowing the dance of life to unfold. This inner stillness becomes a guide, a silent compass that helps you navigate through life's challenges. When confusion arises, you no longer rush for answers or react in panic. You pause. You listen to the silence. And in that pause, often the right action arises on its own. Not from thought, but from clarity. You don't have to plan every detail. You move step by step, watching each movement, each intention. And because you are not rushing, you don't miss life. You don't miss the flower blooming beside your path. You don't miss the smile of a stranger or the taste of fresh water. Life becomes rich, even in simplicity. This richness is not dependent on possessions or status. It is not about how much you have, but how deeply you live. A man with little may be full of life because he is present. Another with luxury may be empty, caught in endless thought. So you begin to see success differently. Not as what you gain, but how consciously you live. Not in what you accumulate, but how aware you are of each step. This awareness becomes your true wealth. It cannot be stolen, cannot be lost. It grows each time you return to the now. Sometimes people ask, if I observe everything, won't I become detached or passive? But real observation is not disconnection. It is intimacy. When you truly observe a flower, you see its life, its delicacy, its mystery. You feel more connected, not less. The same happens with people. When you observe someone without judging, you understand their fears, their pain, their hopes. You become more compassionate, more available. You don't rush to fix or advise, you simply stay present. This presence itself becomes healing. It is not something you do, it is what you are. Even when someone wrongs you, awareness changes your response. The usual mind wants revenge or withdrawal, but the aware mind sees deeper. You ask, what made them act this way? You see their conditioning, their confusion, and instead of reacting with hate, you respond with clarity. This does not mean you allow harm, but you don't carry bitterness. You forgive, not as a duty, but because you see holding anger only poisons you. Forgiveness becomes freedom, not favor. It is letting go of the burden, not approving the wrong. And such letting go is only possible when you observe deeply, beyond your personal hurt. Observation also reveals how fear shapes so much of human behavior. Fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of not being enough. This fear wears many masks: ambition, people-pleasing, aggression, even overthinking. But when you stop and watch the fear without running or fighting, it starts to dissolve. You see it as just a thought, just a feeling. It may shake the body, but it cannot touch your true being. And the moment you face it fully, you discover courage. Not the bravado of forcing yourself, but the quiet strength of understanding. Real courage is seeing fear and not being moved by it. You may notice that many emotions are like waves. They rise, they peak, they pass. But if you identify with them, I am angry, I am anxious, they trap you. Instead, when you say, anger is arising, or anxiety is passing through, a shift happens. You are no longer inside the emotion. You are watching it from a distance. And in that watching, the emotion loses its grip. It may still come, but it cannot dominate. This is emotional freedom, not the absence of feeling, but the presence of clarity. Clarity comes from non-resistance. Most people waste energy resisting what is. This should not be happening. I must get rid of this thought. I need to be different. But resistance creates tension. What you resist persists. The moment you stop fighting and start watching, you free yourself. You see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And only from that seeing can real change happen. It is like cleaning a wound. First, you must see it clearly, accept it. Then healing begins. Not because you forced it, but because you understood it. This applies even to failure. The mind says, I failed, and feels shame. But awareness says, something did not work, let me observe. You don't label yourself a failure. You see the event as one moment in a larger journey. You learn, adapt, and grow. There is no guilt, no regret, just clarity. Life becomes a continuous unfolding, not a series of verdicts. You stop fearing mistakes because you know each one teaches. You stop fearing judgment because you are no longer identified with an image. You are real, evolving, alive. And in this aliveness, joy arises. Not the excitement of a new toy or praise, but the deep joy of being. You feel it when you sit quietly and breathe, when you walk slowly without destination, when you gaze at the stars without needing to understand. This joy has no cause, so it has no end. It is not a peak, it is a current, always flowing. And the more you live in awareness, the more you align with this current. Life becomes less of a struggle and more of a flow. You also stop taking things so personally. A rude word, a closed door, a missed opportunity, these used to sting. But now, you see them as part of the play. You respond wisely or let them go, without internal storms. You understand that everyone is acting from their own level of awareness, their own pain. You don't carry their actions into your heart. This does not make you cold. It makes you kind without being wounded, compassion without collapse, strength without armor. And finally, you begin to trust life, not because everything is easy, but because you are rooted in something deeper than events. You are not trying to control every outcome. You act with awareness and let go. You live with attention and surrender. This trust is not blind, it is born from observation. You see the patterns of nature, the rhythm of breath, the intelligence of the present. And you realize, life knows what it's doing. You are part of it, not separate. You are not here to conquer life. You are here to dance with it. This dance with life is not choreographed by your thoughts. It is not planned or predicted. It moves in unexpected ways. Sometimes it brings joy, sometimes sorrow, sometimes clarity, sometimes confusion. But through all these changing movements, awareness remains. And as you stay with this awareness, a quiet intelligence awakens in you. Not the knowledge you read in books or gather from others, but a direct intelligence born from observing your own life. You begin to sense what is right, not through rules, but through insight. You know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to wait. This intelligence is not separate from life. It is life, flowering through your presence. In the marketplace, you use this intelligence. In the home, in the classroom, in meetings, it flows naturally. You don't need to remember theories or ideas. You are attentive and your response arises freshly in each moment. Just like a musician who is lost in his art, not thinking of each note but flowing with it, you live each moment like a spontaneous act. Your life becomes a creative movement. Even the smallest act, sweeping the floor, tying your shoelace, drinking water, has depth and beauty. Because you are not doing it absent-mindedly, you are present. And presence turns ordinary things into sacred moments. This sacredness is not religious in the traditional sense. It is not about belief or rituals. It is the sacredness of being, of knowing that this moment, this breath, this step, this silence is a miracle. You don't need to escape into temples or mountains. You don't need to wait for peace after death. The now is enough, if you can see it, if you can be in it. And this seeing is not a strain. It is effortless when you stop chasing something. It happens when you relax into what is fully, without needing anything to change. Even when you fail to be aware, and yes, you will, you do not scold yourself. You smile gently, return again. Awareness is not a perfectionist. It is patient. It understands that the mind has been conditioned for years. It knows there will be slips, moments of getting caught. But each time you remember, you deepen your presence. And slowly, even your forgetfulness becomes part of the journey. You stop dividing life into good and bad, success and failure. Everything is part of the learning. Everything becomes a doorway back to awareness. This is where love blossoms, not the love that clings, controls, or needs to be needed, but the love that arises when you are whole within yourself. You do not love to gain something. You love because love flows naturally from clarity. You don't seek someone to complete you. You share your completeness. This love is not always romantic. It is the gentle care in your voice, the softness in your gaze, the willingness to listen without judgment. It is in how you treat animals, how you walk on the earth, how you speak to the old and the young. When awareness flowers, love is not an emotion. It is your way of being. And when pain comes, you meet it with the same presence. You don't avoid it or dramatize it. You sit with it. You allow the tears. You listen to the ache without trying to fix it. And this very act of listening transforms the pain. Because most of the suffering comes not from the pain itself, but from the resistance to it, the thought that says, "This should not be happening." But in awareness, you stop fighting. And in that acceptance, the pain softens. It may still be there, but it is no longer torment. You have made space for it, and in that space, healing begins. You begin to understand deeply that nothing is permanent. Not joy, not sorrow, not fear, not hope. Everything comes and goes. And in this understanding, you become free. You enjoy the good moments fully without clinging. You endure the bad moments wisely without despair. You know, this too shall pass. This calm watching is not detachment. It is wisdom. It is the wisdom of knowing that you are not the clouds, you are the sky. And no cloud, no matter how dark, can damage the sky. This helps you make decisions without fear. You are not paralyzed by the question, "What if I choose wrong?" Because you know, every choice will bring some joy, some challenge, and you will learn from both. So you move forward with awareness, not with anxiety. You stop trying to control life like a machine. You start living it like a river, flowing, adapting, dancing with the current. This dance is not careless. It is full of attention. You care deeply, but you do not grasp. You give your best to life, but you do not demand a fixed result. Even in solitude, you are not lonely. You are alone, but not empty. In fact, you discover that in silence, you are most full. You meet yourself, not the self others have named, but the raw presence beneath all labels. And this self is not separate from the trees, the sky, the wind. You feel one with life. You realize you do not belong to any country, religion, group. You belong to the present moment. You are not a fixed personality. You are a movement of awareness, ever fresh, ever new. This freshness gives birth to creativity. You may paint, write, speak, sing, not to prove something, but to express the joy of being. Your work becomes an offering, not an obligation. Your actions are guided by insight, not pressure. You are not rushing to achieve something before you die. You are living each day so fully that death, when it comes, holds no fear. You know you have tasted life, not just survived it, but embraced it. And this embrace began when you stopped running, stopped escaping, and simply watched. As you go deeper, even the observer disappears. There is no longer you watching the mind. There is only awareness, pure, open, silent. Not someone aware, but awareness itself. In this space, there is no inner commentary, no labels, just experience, unfolding in its own rhythm. You are not separate from it. You are it. You are not watching life. You are life, conscious of itself. And in that realization, all struggle ends. Not because problems disappear, but because the inner division disappears. There is only one movement, the movement of presence. This is the end of psychological suffering, not the end of pain or problems or effort, but the end of inner conflict. You are no longer divided against yourself, no longer chasing pleasure and avoiding pain, no longer trying to become something else. You are whole here and now. You have understood the mind, not from outside, but from within. And in that understanding, the mind finds its right place. It no longer dominates, it serves. Thought becomes a useful tool, not a tyrant. Emotions become waves to be felt, not traps to drown in. And your life becomes simple, deep, and free. In this simplicity, relationships transform. When you are aware, you no longer bring expectations into your connections. You are not constantly measuring, demanding, or comparing. You are not trying to change the other person. You are not attached to your image of them. You meet them as they are, in each moment, without dragging the past or projecting a future. This creates a space of honesty and freedom where love can grow. Not the kind of love filled with fear or control, but a love rooted in clarity and understanding. You also become less reactive. Someone may insult you, and instead of reacting with anger or defense, you simply notice your response. You observe the tightening in your chest, the rising thought of retaliation, the habitual urge to speak sharply. But you don't act from it. You remain still, watching the storm inside without becoming the storm. This non-reaction is not weakness, it is deep strength. It is easy to react. It takes awareness to remain grounded. And often, this grounded silence has more power than any words. You also start noticing how small things disturb the mind. A missed message, a forgotten favor, a harsh tone. Earlier, these would ruin your peace. Now you observe the hurt rising, you don't suppress it, and you don't let it control you. You allow it, and in that allowing, it loses its intensity. This does not mean you never speak or set boundaries, but your actions come from clarity, not from wounded emotions. You respond rather than react. This single shift, response over reaction, can transform your entire life. When you sit in silence each day, even for a few minutes, and watch your breath or thoughts, something beautiful begins to happen. The outer world may remain noisy, but your inner world becomes quieter. Like mud settling in still water, clarity begins to shine through. You see how much of your restlessness came from imagined problems, from stories your mind created. And as you stop feeding these stories, the mind slows down. Thoughts still come, but they no longer pull you in. You observe them like birds flying across the sky, appearing, moving, disappearing. You begin to laugh more easily, not from amusement but from lightness. You laugh at the old seriousness with which you carried your ego, your plans, your worries. You realize how often you missed life because you were busy in your head. Now, you are more playful, more relaxed. Even when life challenges you, you do not collapse. You stand rooted in awareness, watching the waves come and go. This is not cold detachment. It is warm wisdom. It comes from living deeply, not withdrawing. You also realize that opinions are not truths. Just because a thought appears does not make it real. Just because someone says something does not mean you must agree or disagree. You can listen fully without the urge to argue or conform. This creates space for dialogue, for real connection. When two people meet in awareness, they don't fight to win. They share to understand. Even disagreements become opportunities to grow. And even when you walk away from a situation, you do it with peace, not bitterness. In daily life, this awareness shows up in small but powerful ways. When eating, you taste your food fully. You are not scrolling a phone or arguing in your head. You are present, and even simple food becomes delicious. When walking, you feel the ground under your feet, the breeze on your face, the movement of your body. You are not rushing to reach a goal. You are enjoying the journey. Life is no longer something to finish. It is something to live, moment by moment. Even in work, awareness brings change. You become more focused, more creative, more open. You listen to others, not just waiting for your turn to speak. You see problems clearly without panic or blame. You do your best without attachment to praise or fear of criticism. This gives you calm confidence. You are not arrogant, but you are not shrinking either. You trust your presence, your insight, your ability to learn, and others feel this. Your energy becomes calm, clean, and trustworthy. You no longer need to constantly prove yourself. You are not chasing attention or approval. You do not dress, speak, or act to fit an image. You are just yourself, raw, real, present. And in that authenticity, you feel a deep rest. The exhaustion of pretending, of competing, of comparing drops away. You stop living through others' eyes. You live from your own center. This freedom is not given by society. It is born in you, through observation and understanding. There is a joy that comes when you are not trying to become someone else. You are not reaching toward some ideal. You are simply being, unfolding like a flower in sunlight. You may still have goals, dreams, plans, but you hold them lightly. They no longer bind you. They inspire you without enslaving you. You enjoy the process more than the result. You live each day as a complete experience, not as a means to an end. And this makes your energy fresh and alive. You see clearly now that the mind is not your enemy. It is just a tool, like a knife. Useful when held correctly, dangerous when left to move on its own. When you use thought consciously, to build, plan, learn, it serves you. But when thought uses you, constantly chattering, judging, fearing, it drains you. The art is not to destroy the mind, but to place it in its right place. This happens not through control, but through understanding, not by suppression, but by deep observation. And when emotions come, sadness, anger, jealousy, you no longer push them away or justify them. You observe. You sit with them as you would sit with a guest. You let them express without drama, without shame. And as they are allowed, they change. They become transparent. You see the hurt behind the anger, the fear behind the jealousy. And with this seeing, healing begins. Slowly, your emotions become clearer, softer, more human. You become sensitive without being fragile. This sensitivity is your strength. You can walk into a room and feel the mood without being overwhelmed. You can sense another's pain without trying to fix it or run from it. You can sit with someone in silence, offering presence instead of solutions. This is rare in a world full of noise. And because you are not constantly trying to impress or escape, people feel safe with you. You may not be loud, but your presence is strong. Not forceful, but full. You are no longer obsessed with the future. You plan when needed, but you do not live in a tomorrow that never arrives. You are not addicted to what's next. You are deeply rooted in now. And because you are present, you notice beauty in unexpected places. In an old face, a rusted gate, a child's question. You are no longer waiting for a perfect moment. You are meeting life where it is, as it is, and in that meeting you find peace. This peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of awareness. It is the ability to be with what is, fully, without escaping into fantasy or regret. You see the past as a memory, the future as imagination, both useful, but not real. The only reality is this breath, this step, this awareness, and you honor it by being here, without distraction, without demand. This is the true revolution, not changing the world, but transforming how you meet it.